Hi, I'm Charlie Matthews. I am with Empowering Brands. I'm the founder and CEO of all these empowering brands that we like to talk about. Becca, we're excited to have you join us. So Rebecca Meckensheimer, she does our sales and marketing here. So really excited about hearing from her. She's going to talk about how to successfully market to your audience on social media.
Thank you very much, Charlie. I am Becca. And to give you a little bit of information about me, I am the sales and marketing manager for Empowering Brands. So for the past over 3 years now, I've been helping our clients with their digital marketing strategies, and a lot of that has to do with social media. Prior to being with Empowering, I worked at a distributor that sold pumps and compressors, and I also helped them with their social media and making sure that they were promoting themselves effectively. So to get started, my presentation is how to successfully market to your audience on social media. So let's get started. Alrighty, so first off is content. So content is number one for me, which is why I put it first. Content should be the core of your marketing strategy when it comes to digital. And really what I want to start with when it comes to content is I think the first thing that you need to do is to do a content audit. So what a content audit is you're going to go through every piece of content that you have and put it in one place. So whether that's an Excel spreadsheet or just one place that you have it. So all of your blogs, your case studies, your infographics, your videos or imagery, anything and everything that you have to use as collateral for promoting yourself through content on your social platforms, knowing what all of that is. So really, this is going to help you in a couple ways. One's going to help you know what exactly you have to use to post about, and then it's also going to help you figure out what pieces of content you might need to create. So say you have, a bunch of content related around these two areas, but then there's another area that you don't have really any content around. It'll really make it clear on where you have a lot of content and where you don't, and where you need to maybe produce some more. So once you do this content audit and you know what you have, then is when you want to ask yourself some of these questions that I have listed here. So who are you trying to reach? What platforms are they on? What content do they like to consume on that platform? And then lastly, what can I share on each platform to naturally fit into their feed? So that last question is kind of where I want to pause for you guys and to really think about is you have your content audit, you have all of the content that you have, but that doesn't mean that every single piece of content you have should go on every platform that you're using. So really being mindful and identifying what types of content is best for what platforms, and then making sure that you're picking those pieces of content that make sense on those different platforms and not just, posting it on everything where it might not, get the best results. So to kind of give you a little breakdown of the different platforms and what content goes best where, I have to start for Facebook. So Facebook is more lighthearted content. So videos, photos, company culture, company updates, nothing too heavy or technical you really want to put on Facebook. Now, Instagram is a little bit different because you don't really need content per se. You just need to make sure that you have very strong imagery and videos to be able to post out with, really kind of just a little blurb about what it is. Twitter, the majority of the people that use Twitter now, they use it for a news source. So anything that is kind of newsworthy content is what you're going to want to put on Twitter, along with blogs and also events. So events are still really big on Twitter, industry events, and really kind of seeing what's going on and being engaged with them is another big one for Twitter. And one thing I wanted to note as well for Twitter is video. So normally we're used to hearing that video isn't maybe the best for Twitter, but I've actually been seeing that recently video is really performing very successfully on Twitter opposed to the other channels. So I wanted to just throw that one in there for you guys so that, you know, if you weren't previously using video on Twitter, maybe giving it a shot and seeing what happens. And then last is LinkedIn. So we all know LinkedIn as the professional network and, you know, for company news, culture, really thought leadership. So that hearty quality content. So webinars or anything educational or that someone's going to learn is what does the best on LinkedIn. That being said, we've really kind of seen that, you know, employee spotlights and community outreach posts, those are also things that actually do perform pretty well on LinkedIn. So just kind of being mindful of what content you have and where best it fits on the platforms. Next is graphics. So you can have really, really great images, but if they aren't sized correctly, then it really takes away from the impact of them. Every platform has their own sizing requirements. It can be a little tedious, I get it, to have to resize your images for each platform, but it really makes a difference and it's important. You don't want to not have the right sizing for one of the platforms you're posting on, and then it's a crop and it just lose all visual effect. Along with that, you of course want to make sure that you have high-res images and video that you're posting, and that can be hard. So there are plenty of resources online that you can find free, really good stock images. To name a couple is Pexels, Upsplash, Raw Pixel. There's a lot of places that you can find free images that are really nice that you can be using in your social media collateral to use and make sure that you are putting your best foot forward there. I do want to note though for you that live and on the fly style images and videos do have more wiggle room. So for example, you're doing a Facebook Live, or say you're out in the field and you see a really cool picture of equipment and you want to take a picture of it and then post it to your channels. That kind of behind the scenes style definitely gets more grace with, you know, the quality. If it's not, it's a little grainy or it's not the best, people don't really care. They do like to see that behind the scenes style and really get a good feel of who you are as a company, not just like what you regularly post, but the here and there too. And lastly, on graphics, really minimal text added to images is kind of a good rule of thumb, unless it's a meme. If you're a millennial or younger, then you appreciate a good meme. And I do think that that is fine to post that type of content out there for, you know, some lighthearted content, but really kind of reeling yourself back in and letting the images themselves speak for themselves versus mudding them up with too much text. Next is hashtags and links. So why should you use them? Well, because they enhance your reach and they help build SEO. So we're gonna talk about hashtags first. So for hashtags, how do we know what ones we want to use? That one's pretty easy, you just research it. A really good way that I tell people to research relevant hashtags for them is to look at the people in their industry and in their network and see what they're using. Same with industry events or, you know, media outlets that are posting content that relate to you, seeing what they're using and then kind of pulling those things. That being said, I do always recommend that you research your hashtags first. So even say, you know, your competitor, for example, could be using this hashtag and you think it's really good and you want to use it, but making sure that you look at what other people are using that hashtag for is always a good thing to check out, because there could be, you know, a decent amount of people that are using that hashtag for what you're wanting to use it for, but then there could be a lot more people using that hashtag for something that is not related at all and that you don't want to be associated with. So really kind of looking at what hashtags that you are using and making sure that the consensus, the majority is using it in the same manner that you're meaning to. And that feeds into all the different platforms too. So just because a certain hashtag might, the majority might be one thing on Twitter, for example, but then you use it on Facebook and it could not have the same effect. So kind of checking all of the platforms and seeing how those tags that you want to use are being used, what kind of content they're around, and making sure that it's relevant. So along with that, you don't want to use too many hashtags. Really, I think we've all kind of seen those posts that's like a sea of hashtags and, 40 deep, and that I don't ever recommend using that many hashtags. Really, I would say picking 8 solid ones that reflect your company and what you your reach that you want to get online is definitely a good practice, but then also making sure that the hashtags you're using are specific to your posts. So for example, say you post an article related to oil and gas, but one of your top hashtags that you use is hashtag wastewater. You're not going to want to use the hashtag wastewater with your article that's about oil and gas. When people are looking up the hashtag wastewater, they're doing that to find articles related to wastewater. So if they see your article with oil and gas, it's not going to make sense and they're just going to keep scrolling, and that's not what you want. You don't want to cause confusion or be misleading in any way. Now for links. So having links in your social posts is a great way to increase your SEO. Same as what I said about hashtags though, you have to make sure that your post links make sense for the posts. So you really want them to be what you're posting about. It shouldn't be, you're talking about this cool new product that you want people to learn more about, then they click on the link and it's just the homepage of your website. You want to bring them to wherever it lives on your site that is talking, where they can learn more information about what that post is. Because of that, not all posts need to have a link. You don't have to worry about that. Yes, you do want to have some posts that have links for the SEO benefit, but not all of them are necessary. So really, it's just thinking through your strategy and making sure that they all align. So from the content to the image to the hashtags and links, that it all makes sense. Last, I'm going to touch on are some pro tips. So first is going to be practice social listening. So social listening is staying in tune with what your industry is talking about online. This requires being very plugged in and really paying attention to your network and what they're focused on at the moment. So for example, say it's a month leading up to a really big trade show, there's going to be a lot of chatter starting online around that show and content, and you're really going to be able to see what people are talking about specifically. And that's going to be a great way that you can, one, just see what they're talking about, and then see what kind of content that you have that's related to that you can be posting at that time. And if you don't have content that's related to that you could be posting, but you could create content, then that's another way that you can have some additional ways to create new content and still be relevant and involved in the conversation and engaged with those people during that time. Next is going to be practice social empathy. So this is really being sensitive to current events and what's going on in the world. So this year has been a very good teacher of social empathy. And brands, really what they should be posting during a pandemic, all of the social unrest that's happened this year. It's really about being mindful of what we're posting during those times. And, a lot of us as marketers specifically that handle social media, a lot of the time we post things pretty far in advance. And depending on what's going on, we might not even realize that our posts could come off badly to some So always kind of making sure that you know what is going on and making sure that you're always reevaluating what you have scheduled to go out, just to make sure that it doesn't look poorly on your company if it does go out and there is, something tragic going on. Lastly is going to be adaptable and stay informed. So our social media habits continue to change and fluctuate, and that's okay. Also, our performance on social isn't always going to be fantastic, and that's also okay. Really, it's about keeping up with monitoring the performance of your posts, continuing to educate yourself on the new trends, the best practices, and just being really willing to change it up and, pivot if needed and start back from the drawing board if it's not working. But really just making sure that you are doing the best that you can to see what is changing in the realm of social media, what people are talking about, and ways that you could be tweaking your own practices and doing things a little different to continue to enhance that. So that is it for me. So I'm going to open it up for the Q&A.
I do have some questions for you. Do you think there is a good balance between individuals posting to LinkedIn versus companies posting to LinkedIn? Or should we be encouraging employees to share the LinkedIn content? So should we be, I guess, posting from ourselves on LinkedIn or from our company, and how should it be shared?
Okay, so it should be both. You should always encourage your employees to be active on LinkedIn. And you should also be, of course, active on the company LinkedIn, but then also sharing each other. So your employee posts something really cool about a project that they're working on, share that on the company page, and vice versa. Your employees should also be sharing the things from your page on theirs to their network. So it really should be both, and both the company and their employees should be, helping each other, really.
Okay, so the next question is, what do you do about spam type negative comments? Do you immediately delete them? Do you leave them and don't address them? Like, what would you do if you saw a negative comment?
That I take that very on a case by case basis. If it's, if it has any kind of profanity or threats or anything like that, absolutely it's deleted, blocked, absolutely not. If it's, they didn't like a product and had an issue, that could be potentially you reach out and say, hey, how can we contact you and resolve this? I think it really does depend on what the comment is. But if it is nasty, then I'm always in favor of deleting it and not worrying about it. But if there is an opportunity that you could potentially solve a problem for that client that is upset, or whoever, whatever the situation is, I do think that companies should try to mend that if they can.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. You did a great job.